are moving forward with active transportation initiatives, which includes encouraging the department to move forward with the construction of bike lanes, especially around our lighthouse routes. And I'm hearing that some bike lanes are already being moved forward in some communities, and that's a good thing. And I think to work closely with those groups that are encouraging more active lifestyles through active transportation is a good thing. And I'm encouraging the minister and the department again to move quickly on those types of initiatives, because at the end of the day, I think it becomes fiscally responsible, because if we can get more people out of their vehicles, especially in smaller communities, where they can scoot from community to community using a bicycle, you know, I think we need to look at the fiscal opportunities that can be had by investing in active transportation. And I also want to draw the minister's attention to a piece of legislation that I put to the House the other day around the Zen car, the electric car. And I think that that particular legislation, when it comes up before the House, that there will be good positive discussion around that. There are a lot of communities that certainly could see residents moving forward to purchasing those types of electric vehicles. A lot of communities, in my riding, for example, you can't be driving 80 and 90 kilometers in through a lot of our communities. And I've already started hearing from residents who are saying, you know, can we get a hold of one of those electric cars? And can we, you know, I could be scooting around my community in one of these neat energy efficient vehicles. So I look forward to discussing that piece of legislation in the House when it does come up, and it is part of a good transportation strategy. So I'd like to ask the minister about my suggestion around school buses and using that model.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the questions and the suggestions. First of all, I do want to say I neglected to mention as well, and I'm sure members would agree that I think Kings County as well has a tremendous bus system in place that I know that we've heard a lot about, and I think that other communities are looking at their experience and trying to mirror what they've been able to do successfully. And I guess there's no need to try to find new ways to do things when someone else has been successful at it, and I don't think you should ever argue with success. So I think Kings County is another area we probably can look forward to for their experience and some suggestions. I was sitting here tonight when you mentioned, I kind of smiled, and that's why when you said about school buses, I'm sitting here tonight, my colleagues, you probably agree that, you know, you remember the previous Minister of Transportation, the Honourable Ron Russell, who's now retired. He's probably sitting home here tonight, you know, watching us here and taking this all in and wishing he was here to answer your questions. But I do want to say that before Minister Russell left, yeah. Before Minister Russell left, actually, one of Mr. Russell's suggestions was that when we talk about accessible bus and busing throughout the province, that we look at the school bus, the option of using school buses. And yeah, two great minds, eh? Anyway, and I'm not saying that, and we will, we'll have a discussion with the Department of Education to see if there is any opportunity there that we may even look at some sort of a pilot. Maybe, I don't know, but we will look at it. I will say that. When you just quickly look at the issue, first of all, there's the public system in Nova Scotia. There's also the private system, where there's contract out on my own area. I think Laidlaws and Stock are another group that so, you know, they're one side of it. There's the public system that's in place. There could be all kinds of issues around, you know, school buses. I know they're used for, you know, maybe 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, and they sit throughout the day. But however, there are lots of times that children need to be bused through the day, whether school's canceled or if they're going on school trips or. Anyway, you know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at it. We should, but we have to keep in mind as well that they are primarily. We have to understand that they are for busing children back and forth to school, and they have to be available. We couldn't have school children waiting for these buses because they're tied up elsewhere. no more than we want to leave people stranded because they had to leave and go pick up children. So there's probably lots of reasons why we need to take a real good look at it, but also being cautious about it to ensure that we would not hinder what buses in this province are intended to do, and that's carry our school children safely. And I should say that we should commend all our bus drivers across this province because they do a tremendous job, and we entrust them with our most precious gifts, and that's our children. So I think that they do a tremendous job, and we need to ensure that they're able to continue to do that. And I know that many in my own area, I hear that often. To get a chance to tell them that, not enough. Just on the issue of the bike lanes, just wanted to mention as well that, for example, in the St. Anne's area, we're actually widening the pavement an extra meter, which will mean that then you'll have that additional space on each side of the highway for bicycles to travel. So that's happening right now. On the Peggy's Cove Loop, we're looking at doing a 1 meter wide of the possibility of doing 1 meter wide of double chip seal, which would allow again for a bicycle route on that loop. And I think that that's probably an area, that area and probably several others in the province, I think would be well received. I know we've heard that in the House, and we've heard organizations talk about how it's becoming more popular, in this kind of sport. Now, I'm sure the honourable member is not saying here tonight, suggesting Nova Scotians take the bike. Are you? No, I didn't think so. Anyway, I didn't think so. But anyway, I did want to say, just on the Zen car, we've had a lot of correspondence in the department from citizens who have read about it, from groups, not only just from Nova Scotia either. People who have contacted the department and said, hey, you know what, here's an electric car that's available. Obviously, what a great opportunity to save on energy. And I do want to say that the Minister of Energy and the Minister of Environment have done a tremendous job in regards to doing all we can to ensure we protect our environment, and certainly any initiative or opportunity in this province, we want to explore them and do what we can to lessen the amount of damage we're doing to the environment. So I think that it's a great suggestion. I think people have really picked up on it. And in fact, I think the generation come behind us are a lot more in tune to the environment, and I think that they're more aware of it, and they're encouraging us as decision makers to ensure that when we make decisions, whether it's legislation, whether it's laws in this province, whatever it is, that we ensure that we take into consideration what impact that has on the environment and what we can do to protect it. But back to the Zen car. The Zen car, as you know, when we consider what vehicle we would allow on the highways in Nova Scotia, we not only have to consider what benefits are, we have to consider as well what it means in regards to safety, what it means in regards to other vehicles that travel on the highways today, whether it be bicycles, motorcycles, trucks, cars. We have to consider the pedestrian traffic and obviously speeds and the type of weather and the type of road conditions we have throughout the province. My understanding is the Zen car, and in fact the department is presently reviewing the whole issue around the Zen car, and we've done quite a bit of work already. And I think I'm right in saying this, that there's only one jurisdiction presently in Canada, I believe I'm right, that allows the Zen car to be used, and that's on a national park in British Columbia. And other jurisdictions apparently are looking at it, but I don't think it's actually legal to drive on provincial highways in the country other than that. And that was as of 3 or 4 weeks ago, unless something's changed since then. But Transport Canada has certain safety standards that vehicles have to meet to be able to travel on our highways, and there are 41 of those standards. And the Zen car actually only meets 6 of them. So there's a real issue around safety of drivers in the vehicles, when it comes to collisions. The speed of these vehicles, which I understand is quite slow. I think its top speed is 40 kilometers. I think it's 40 kilometers is top speed of these vehicles. So you can just imagine if we blanketly allowed those vehicles on our highways, and you had those types of vehicles. They're small. Well, we have to build more roads. So there you go. We want to build more roads. Now, see, we already been through this. Certain roads with no other cars on them. But anyway, there are no, it's okay. There are safety standards that have to be met in this country, and we in this province we certainly want to ensure that anything that we authorize on our highways meet those standards. Give you a good example. There's a bill before the House I'm not supposed to speak about, but there's a certain type of a motorcycle that presently is not allowed to be licensed in Nova Scotia. Many other provinces allow it. It meets all the standards, the Canadian transport safety standards. It meets all those, but the speed of those, they have a top speed of well over 100 kilometers an hour. They're a regular motorcycle. There's nothing that, yeah, it's just, it has to do with, you're right, just with the steering, number of wheels on the steering mechanism. But, they meet all the Canadian, Transport Canada safety standards that are required across the country, and other provinces allow it. So that's a good example how when something is suggested here in this province, in this case it was dealers, Cobequid Mountain Sports, by the way, in Cumberland County is one that brought it to my attention. Anyway, so when that's a good example of when a vehicle that's authorized by Transport Canada meets all those standards, other jurisdictions are using it, and now it's present before this House, where it can quickly move through this House with the agreement of all members and all sides of the House to make it legal. When it comes to the Zen, it's a little bit different. As much as we would like to allow that to happen right away, there are all kinds of reasons that I just mentioned to you that we have to ensure that we consider. I think the Road Safety Committee is it? Yeah, we're doing a review anyway internally in the Department of Transportation in regards to what's happened elsewhere, those standards that the Zen would have to meet. What opportunities there may be in Nova Scotia, if there are any. Maybe it's a pilot, maybe it's not. The honourable member raised an issue around maybe there's certain roads, and maybe there are. Maybe there's certain roads in certain areas of the province. Maybe it's within a protected area of a park or something where no other traffic is allowed. There may be situations where a vehicle like that could be used, but just to authorize, for example, the Zen for environmental reasons and reasons around cost saving to allow it on our highways, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that it has an impact on other traffic that presently take part on our highways, and again, all those things I talked about earlier. So anyway, the honourable members come up with some good ideas and suggestions that we'll consider, particularly the issue around the school bus. We will have a discussion with the Department of Education about that issue and see if there are any opportunities in this province to partner with the Department of Education, or even to look at the issue and maybe do some sort of review to see if there's an opportunity where maybe some locales may be able to take advantage of school buses that are available. But anyway, thank the honourable member for that, and again, we'll take those comments under consideration.
Thank you. The honourable member's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the honourable member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a few questions about particular roads in my area that I want to ask, of course. The first one is a relatively easy one, and there's a bridge in Lake Echo on the old number 7 highway that is, it needs repairs. I think the department has recognized that. But before, and I don't know when it's scheduled to be repaired, but when it is repaired, and possibly before that, it really needs a walkway on it outside of the handrail, because there's a huge trailer park just up from the bridge. And on the other side of the bridge is a convenience store, a beach, canoe club, and a community recreation center, a big one. And there's a lot of kids in that trailer court, Lake Echo, and they're traveling on the road, and the bridge is, there's very narrow, not really a walkway, just sort of a curb on the bridge, and it's quite a sharp corner around that spot too. I was just wondering, when the minister, we've sent letters requesting this in the past, when we could expect this work to be possibly done.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the honourable member for the question and welcome him to the debate tonight around transportation estimates and budget for this year. I'm not quite clear exactly where the bridge is the honourable member is talking about. We'll make some notes in regards to that bridge. I will say that we have a pretty aggressive program in this province in regards to inspection of bridges, and I'm assuming from what the member said that this is a cement steel type bridge, single or double lane. Double lane. It's a double lane. There's an annual inspection that takes place of all bridges in Nova Scotia, an annual inspection of, and then there's a more in-depth examination and assessment of bridges that occurs every 3 or 4 years, and we'll find out when last that bridge was assessed and what type of assessment has been done on it, and let the honourable member know what the plans are for that bridge. The honourable member mentioned about a sidewalk, and again, it depends on if there's any opportunity with the existing bridge, maybe the type of growth there's been in the area, whether there's a lot of pedestrian traffic now, maybe where there wasn't when that bridge was first built. As a member would know, that some of the bridges in this province are have quite a number of years behind them, and this may be one of those bridges. I'm not sure, but we will do a we'll do an investigation, I guess, of the issue that all my members talking about tonight, and try to determine where that bridge is in our plan, and also get a copy of the last report that was done on that bridge, and then look ahead to the future as to, is this a bridge that is, if there's a plan to replace, does it need to be replaced, is it going to be upgraded, repaired, or whatever? I don't know at this point, but we'll certainly ascertain that and report back to the member.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the honourable member for Preston.
Thank you. The bridge, I believe, was built probably in the 50s when the number 7 highway was originally put through and paved. And the real issue is the bridge may not need to be replaced. You can't tell by looking at it. You have to have the engineers look at it, of course. But even if the bridge isn't going to be replaced, if you could put a walkway on the outside of the bridge so the children can go through there, because when that bridge was built, there was very few people living in Lake Echo, almost no people living in Lake Echo, and the huge trailer court, which has 300 or 400 trailers in it, and most trailers, most of the homeowners in that particular area have children. So they have to get out for recreation. They have to go in this section of the road, and the bridge is narrow. It is just barely the 2 lanes that's needed for cars to pass each other. So if you had 3 or 4 kids, hopefully on the proper side of the road, but not always necessarily, as you know how kids are when they're playing and going places, it could be a fatal place for somebody sometimes. So if we could get a commitment from you to look at that and see if there can't be something done. And it's not a very wide bridge. It's a bridge, I'm guessing the width of it probably about 30 feet. It's not a huge bridge that you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars putting a walkway on. Long, yeah, the length of it. It's not very long. And indeed, because it's not very long, it causes some big flooding upstream from there when the big rains come. But that's another issue altogether. So it's not very long. So the cost of putting a bridge on that, even a wooden walkway on the outside of it, would probably suffice what needs to be done with the proper handrails on it. So maybe you could just give a confirmation that you will look at that walkway.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. We will undertake to do a review of that bridge and see what can be done. Again, I'll just remind it by staff that depending on the type of girders it has and the weight carrying, weight bearing, I guess, type of structure it is, whether it's possible or not, but and what type of a sidewalk would be required, whether it would be steel or wood or whatever. But we will commit to review that and do assessment of that and report it back to the honourable member.
Thank you. The Honourable member for Preston.
My asks are going to get a little bit bigger as we go along here. That's the easiest one. The next one is Brooks Drive in East Preston. Now, I really appreciate the work the department has done in the Preston riding. Brooks Drive is a street that which we have community transit on, although it's not very good transit. It's there occasionally. The transit bus goes through there. It's an area rated one, so the community pays for it in addition to the regular transit rate. The bus goes through there, school bus, there's quite a lot of traffic, and it's probably about 2 kilometers long, and it is in desperate condition. Is there any plans to pave that in the next year or so, or less?
Thank you. Chair recognizes the Honourable Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I can tell the honourable member that's not a name of a road that's familiar to me, so I would say from that it's not on our list at present to be repaved. But again, I want to go back to the department and look at our roads for the area to see if, in fact, before I'd say that. But again, it's not a road I remember being on our list, so I'd have to say at this point it's not one that's under consideration presently this year to be repaved.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Preston.
Hopefully you can put it on the list for this year. It is one that needs to be done, and there's a community center on the end of the road, and there's a lot of traffic through this one particular area. So I'd ask you to consider that and see if we can't get that repaired, and it is in really bad shape. I'm sure that the snowplow drivers, when they go through there in the wintertime, aren't very happy individuals when they hit that section of road. It's full of potholes, it's got humps in the middle, and it's just in bad shape. The next thing I have on the list here is a sort of a bigger problem, but this is one that really has to be addressed, and the department has done some work on this in the past. They've acquired some land already. They've prepared drawings for it, interchange drawings, and the whole works. Now the problem with this is, and it's a 107 bypass, which would potentially hook on at exit 17, where you come out of East Preston, and then go in behind all the homes and connect somewhere near Conrod's gravel pit on the Montague Road. That would take off so much traffic off the number 7 highway, the old number 7 highway. In the mornings now, the wait at the lights is probably up to half an hour in some cases. It's backed up maybe 3 or 4 kilometers, the traffic in that area. And not only the traffic tie-up, and the same thing is repeated in the evenings going the other direction. It's not only the traffic tie-up, but the Ross Road, which is in that area, has had many on the number 7 highway when the Ross Road intersects, and just past where the Ross Road intersects on that section of number 7 highway, just up from there, has had many fatal accidents in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's because the traffic is so intense and it's impossible to get out of there. And the municipality has one set of lights that's sort of half a set of lights and not the other half. That's their problem, not ours. And I've been chasing them to resolve that, but they have to realign a road to do it. And they seem to be reluctant to do that. But if we could get the 107 bypass put in place, and I know I've talked to your staff about it, I met with them, and they showed me the plan they have for it. All we need is a priority from the minister, and we can get it done, and the money, of course. But so it's really in your hands, Mr. Minister. So if you've got lots of money, which you know that you guys spent a lot of money before the budget come down, so maybe you can free up some more money to do this, and this would help not only my riding but the next riding in the Eastern Shore, because a lot of people come through there every day, and the traffic is building more and more and more and more. And people are sitting there idling their vehicles. It's becoming an environmental issue as well as a safety issue. And the traffic is just incredible. And I was just wondering what the plan is for the 107 bypass.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question and obviously the concern around the 107. And the honourable member would know that the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal is very concerned about this actual highway that you've talked about, and very interested in seeing that move ahead. The honourable member would know as well from the meetings with staff that we are in the process now of acquiring properties, purchasing properties, and also doing further design in regards to what that highway will actually look like. I'm told that the cost will be around $26 million, estimated today, $26 million. The honourable member would have heard some discussion we've had over the last couple of days here in regards to initiatives that are presently underway, whether it's the 104, the 101, the 103, all the secondary highway that we're getting requests to do. And I know that, but I know that this highway is very important to the honourable member. I know he's brought it forward before. One thing we are pursuing, will pursue with the federal government. Presently, the 107 would not qualify for cost sharing with the federal government. That means the province would have to pay for the entire project ourselves. But while we're doing while we're acquiring the property and while we're doing the design, and again keeping in mind that the department recognizes this is a very important piece of work that we would like to see done, we will continue to encourage the federal government, try to work with the federal government to allow them to, or let them allow us for it to be part of our cost sharing program with them, which would obviously help us to speed up the process in regards to 107, because we do recognize it as being very important not only to the honourable member and the residents there, but important to the province and important to HRM to get this done. So there is work behind the scenes being done. I know the honourable member might not, the public doesn't see the work being done, but there is work being done within the department. And I think something that we need to continue to work on and is try to encourage the federal government to allow that to be part of the cost sharing program, which would help tremendously in regards to seeing that project become a reality.
The Honourable Member for Preston.
How much more land do you have to purchase to have enough land, all the land you need, I should say, to move forward with the project?
Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
We, as the honourable member know, we have been acquiring, the department's been acquiring land right along, and my understanding is we have most of the land acquired now. So we expect that we'll be able to, we hope we'll be able to acquire the rest of the land in the near future, but most of the land has been already acquired.
The honourable member for Preston.
Once the land is acquired, are you doing the design work right now? I know when I talked to staff, they said they don't have a priority on doing the design work. Has that been completed, or how near complete is that, and when will that be completed?
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, the honourable member. The department originally had started the design, begun the design process around a 4-lane highway. Since then, it's been changed, if you will, to a 2-lane. Design will be around 2-lane with the possibility or the opportunity to expand that to a 4-lane in the future, as not only the need be, but also, of course, when funding becomes available. But the member asked, is the design complete now? I'd have to say no, it's not. It's something the department will work on. But again, for us to be able to move this project forward is very important that we're able to convince the federal government to allow this to become part of the cost-sharing program, so that we can get some additional funds federally to help us complete that project.
Honourable member for Preston.
Real simple question. What do you got to do to get on the federal list for the cost sharing?
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the honourable member. Presently, that particular piece of highway would not meet the federal criteria to become part of the cost sharing. I believe it was the 103 that we were able to convince the federal government was become part of the became a feeder, I guess, under the 100 series designation. So we'll continue to try to convince the federal government to allow that to become, whether it's considered a bypass or a feeder. We'll continue to try to encourage federal government to allow that highway to become part of that cost sharing program, which means that they have to be flexible, I guess, with their criteria to allow that to happen.
Honourable member for Preston.
Well, this area is rapidly growing, and the problem is going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm glad to see that it is growing. Well, the municipal plan that the municipality has to basically stop all development may stop the growth in the area once all the roadside land is taken up. But in any case, this is going to grow. The problem is going to get a lot worse. We don't have proper public transit in the area, and we will not have public transit in the area for, I don't believe, for years to come, unless something drastic happens in the meantime. So this road is critical for safety and for a traffic flow. So I encourage the minister to do everything we can to get this on the list with the federal government. And if we can't get on the list with the federal government, see if maybe we could build a part of it over 2 or 3 years to get it finished, so we can have this finished, so for the safety and the ease of handling traffic that it needs to be done.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the honourable member's comments, and I will commit to ensuring that we continue to use as much influence we can federally to include the 107. I will say that a good example is the Burnside Expressway. The federal government allowed that to be considered because it begins and ends on the 100 series highway and part of the national highway system, where with 107 it doesn't. But we're hoping to convince them that that because to consider it under as a bypass, municipal bypass, which would then fit their criteria. So if we can convince the federal government to allow the 107 to fall under that category, then we're hopeful that we can convince them that that they would accept it then under the cost sharing program.
Honourable member for Preston.
Well, what's the process? Does the minister have to write a letter to the federal minister, or is it negotiations that happen between staff, or how does that work? Because that's something I've never worked on.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. the first part of the process obviously would be interdepartmental between the staff at the staff level, where our staff would ask them what what the criteria is, and we would say to them that, for example, the 107, would they consider it, and it would be back and forth discussion between that level of staff. There certainly is an opportunity, if that doesn't work, that there's certainly an opportunity when ministers meet, provincial and federal ministers meet on a regular basis, at least annually, that I could bring that to the attention of the minister, to have him at least have his staff take another look at it if they don't agree with us. You know, there will be other issues that, as a province, we've done it in the past, and we'll continue to do that, where at minister to minister level, we try to encourage them to revisit a decision they made, or at least relook at an issue here in Nova Scotia may be different somewhere else. And I'll give you an example. Under the criteria, there's money available for municipalities for federal cost sharing of roads, where in Ontario, 90% of the roads are owned by the municipalities and 10% by the province, and here in Nova Scotia it's the opposite way. So here in Nova Scotia, we own 90% and maintain 90% of the roads and paved roads, and but we're not able to access any kind of cost sharing program with the federal government because they don't consider that as part of the agreement with the provinces. They will with municipality, but not the provinces. But we own and maintain most of the roads in this province. In fact, about 90%. Now, but going beyond that, we were able to convince the federal government to include. Convince the federal government to include bridges in the cost sharing program. So now, at least now, we're able to, as we move forward with some of these bridges, at least put those forward for consideration for agreement with the federal government in regards to cost sharing of those structures. So I guess what I'm trying to say to the honourable member tonight is that just because it doesn't meet the criteria doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to convince the federal government, given all the issues the honourable member mentioned here tonight about the growth and the number of vehicles on that highway, and it continues to grow, and the fact it is a bypass in our mind that so we will continue to try to encourage the federal government to accept it under the cost sharing program. I will tell the honourable member that staff to staff, they'll continue to talk about these issues as they do other issues, and if we're not successful there, then I'd be prepared to take it directly to the federal minister, Minister Cannon, and ask him and explain to him and show him the information we have around this highway, show him all the issues, tell him about the issues the honourable members talked to us here tonight about, try to convince him to make that part of the cost sharing program, which in my mind will advance that project a lot quicker.
The honourable member for Preston.
I'm pleased to hear that, and I know that people even outside of my riding that travel this road would be very pleased to hear that, and the people that have to contend with the traffic going by their properties and trying to get into traffic when there's no need of it. And it could definitely help a lot of people. And there has been a tremendous number of accidents in that area and a lot of deaths. Probably per kilometer, our death rate is probably a lot higher than the 101 over the same period of time. So if you look at per kilometer, the number of kilometers you have in the 101 and the number of kilometers we have from where the problem starts with where the bypass would be to where it ends somewhere in Dartmouth, it's a very short distance, but there's a lot of deaths in that area, a lot, and they continue. Sometimes it's unexplainable why these accidents have happened, but there's always a reason. So for the kilometers there, I would say our death rate is much higher, and I'll measure it, and I'll find out how many deaths there were, and I'll let you know. But everyone talks about the 101, which is a serious issue, and it has to be resolved, and I'm not saying it doesn't. But for the number of deaths, the number of accidents with serious injury, I'm sure that we're much higher per kilometer than the 101. So it's an issue that could be fixed a whole lot cheaper and look after the safety of many, many residents. You have to see the traffic to believe what it's like. It's almost like you're in downtown Toronto at rush hour. And it's getting like that from about, in the afternoons it used to start about 4 o'clock and go to about 6. And now it starts probably at 1 o'clock and goes to 7 or 8 o'clock at night when cars are coming back. Because a lot of cars go on this road as well to go into Cole Harbour. So it's also would alleviate problems in Cole Harbour. It's a whole structure. It's really a bottleneck on this old section of the main street in Dartmouth, which this feeds into. The other issue, since you can't fix that for me right away, but but you're going to work on it, which I'm pleased to hear. I'm very pleased to hear that, and it's a major issue for many people. We need an entry lane at the exit number 17, and where East Preston comes out onto the 107. I've written to the department about that on more than one occasion, and they have come back, and I had a commitment one time verbally from your predecessor that yes, they'd probably be able to do that. Yes, the gentleman said he'd not cross there, but it never did happen when they repaved the road last year, and for some reason it couldn't be done at that point. But the thing is, it's the only exit on that road, on the 107, that doesn't have a proper entry lane. And the entry lane really has to go from the number 7, where the number 7 enters, down the hill for whatever proper distance is, what the engineering distance is, to make a merge lane where it is actually 4-lane right there in that spot. And there has been some accidents there as well. Not as many as further in, but there has been some accidents. And the cars are coming around the corner. They're supposed to be at 90, but I can tell you, after trying to pull out there in the morning on a few occasions I've been there, it's the cars are on top of you before you can get up to speed and get out of their way, and in 2 lanes are coming at you. So really, it's a small job to build the road over and put a proper entry lane in there, and at least get that done to allow safe entry of the vehicles coming out of East Preston. A lot of people go through the number 7 highway from Lake Echo and Porters Lake, East Preston, and the whole area in the mornings because it's a nicer drive than going on the 107, although 107 is nice, to go in there and enter. Is there something we can do with that and get that fixed?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. The honourable member said there was a commitment from the previous minister to do that, and I just had a discussion with the chief engineer here, and tells me that when that project actually moved ahead, the repaving project, that the design of that issue that the honourable member is asking about wasn't ready, and the department didn't want to hold up the whole project because that design wasn't ready, so they went ahead and paving was complete, as you mentioned. And I don't know if there's any issues. I assume there wasn't. We don't know from sitting here, but we'll review it. But I don't know if there are any issues around land acquisition, if we already own the land and it was ready to go other than the design. But we'll review that and again let the honourable member know what the results of that are. You know, I would think if the main holdup was the design, then probably the issues around land that were already taken care of. But we'll review that and report the results of that review back to the honourable member. But again, I just wanted to say that apparently it was ready to go with the paving project, but just the design wasn't ready, and rather than stop the whole project, probably would have put it off by another year. The decision was made to go ahead and do the repaving anyway, even though the design of that project you're talking about wasn't ready to go.
The Honourable Member for Preston.
I'm going to ask the inevitable question. It's another year. So is there any chance of getting it done this year?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
To be honest, the honourable member, I can't say. You know, again, it's all about priorities and the amount of money we have, and it boils down to funding. And I certainly wouldn't want to make that commitment here tonight. I'd rather say that I can tell you that I haven't seen it on a list anywhere so far this year to be done. So I would have to be honest and say to you, not likely. But I want to have a look first of all at what. You know, was the design finished? What kind of dollars are we talking about? Is everything else in place? You know, is there available money to do it? And then I'd give you a definite answer. But I can tell you tonight, from what I know and what I've seen in the department so far, it's not on the list to be done this year, I don't believe. So, but again, we will review that, and then I'll get an answer for the honourable member whether yes or no, whether it can happen this year or not.
The Honourable Member for Preston.
It's just that it seems like a couple of things in my writing were missed from the year before, like Upper and Lower Partridge River Drive, and I thank the minister for putting that back on the list and putting that tender out to do that, because that was important to have done in the area. So it's one of those things that we're committed to do, and I appreciate the commitment and appreciate the paving that was done, don't get me wrong, but it's a safety issue, and it's an issue that wouldn't cost the department, I don't think, a lot of money to do this, and it would resolve a serious problem down the road. This is a dangerous intersection, and with the traffic coming around there, supposedly at 90, but I'm sure they come around faster than 90 in the mornings when they're going, people are going into work, and they say it's double lane and it's full. So it doesn't give people a chance to pull out. I've seen people pull out there in the morning and just sort of loiter along as the cars are just barreling down on them. And it's funny thing is someone hasn't been rear-ended and a real serious accident happened because of that. So anything you can do to expedite that and get that small little project done would be greatly appreciated and would help some of the safety issues in the area.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the, and I guess something I've become well aware of in the last 6 months is the tremendous growth we see in HRM is creating tremendous challenges for obviously for the municipality and for the province as well. And whether it's the 102 corridor, whether it's the Burnside Expressway, whether it's I think it's the 103 to the 101, proposed 113, whether it's the 107. There's as we continue to see the type of growth we do in HRM, it's going to continue to create a lot more pressure in regards to the transportation system and the ability to move traffic and flow traffic in a safe and effective manner. So I appreciate very much what the honourable member saying here tonight. I know he did mention that that was a small project. I have no idea the cost of that project. I couldn't even begin to guess, but I did commit, and I will commit that we'll review that, and I'll let the honourable member know where that review is, where it's at in the process, and whether it's possible or not. And again, I'm not. I haven't seen it when we're trying to look at our dollars this year. I haven't seen it on the list, but that doesn't mean that. And again, depending on what the price tag is, but I'll certainly get back to the honourable member in regards to the review and whether it's possible or not this year or next year, whatever. But I'll try to let you know as soon as I can.
Honourable member for Preston.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn the remainder of my time over to my honourable member from Clare.
Honourable member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to continue where I left off last time I was up. We were looking at RIM funding. The minister indicated that this year the department's budget is around $21 million. The field offices around the province will be receiving approximately the same level of funding as they did receive last year. My next question is to the minister. How does the department decide on the amount it provides to each field offices? Does the department have a formula they use? Is it based on population? Is it based on the number of kilometers of roads in an area? So I would ask the minister to comment on that, please.
Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. I guess basically the easiest way to say it is that the amount of money that's allocated, obviously for gravel roads, the amount of money that's allocated for spreader patching, whatever, is determined by the number of kilometers of those types of roads in a district or in an area of jurisdiction for area manager. So mainly it's determined by the number of kilometers of roads. Certainly we can give you a breakdown of the allocation of dollars, by district or by region, if that'll help. But again, it's mainly done by the number of kilometers of roads.
The honourable member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly would welcome the commitment that, pardon me, I certainly would welcome the commitment made by the minister, when he does get a chance to provide us with that information. It certainly would be welcome. Mr. Chair, I want to move on to, I'm going to be going all over the parking lot here, I guess. I have all kinds of different issues I would like to raise. My next one is the rumble strips. Last year, the department put out a tender calling a tender for the installation of rumble strips on the shoulders of Highway 104. My question to the minister, is the department considering calling more tenders to install rumble strips along the shoulders of our road? And if so, whereabout? And if not, why not?
Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for that question. I can say from my own experience that I think those rumble strips that I've seen in other provinces, and now we're doing a pilot, particularly in that particular area up the northern region, is a great way to ensure another tool, I guess, towards ensuring our highways are as safe as possible. One thing I'm reminded of is that there are some areas of the province that may not be conducive to those in regards to the width of shoulders, for example. If shoulders aren't wide enough, there's not the width's not enough space. If the pavement's not wide enough, then it's obviously we can't put them in those areas. The other thing may be that was mentioned to me, I think, by someone in the department along the way, is that depending on the weather, sometimes if it's in the wrong area and they're low, they could collect a lot of water, and obviously that freezes, could become a safety issue itself. But I will say that as we construct new roads in this province, the new roadways are being built wide enough that would be able to take advantage of these rumble strips. And so I'm hoping that we'll see over the next number of years that the honourable member will see more and more of these across the province.
Honourable member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll go back looking for some details. Is the department considering calling more tenders this year to install more rumble strips? And if so, whereabout? And if not, why not?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. Keep going back to the issue of funding, no matter what we talk about here, it seems, but however, it is reality with us. But I can tell the honourable member that our intention would be to continue along the 104 towards Truro. That's where we hope to move towards next, coming that way. Whether there'll be a tender this year or not depends on a lot of things, but mainly comes down to the availability of funding. And as I talked about the last 2 days about some of the challenges that we're facing now, particularly this year, in regards to increased costs for petroleum and increased trucking costs, increased costs for asphalt. We're going to be, throughout the summer months, I guess, determining where our budget allows us to continue to do our work in various areas, whether it's the repaving, whether it's the 100 series, the secondary, or whatever, right on through the province, and other areas within the jurisdiction of the department. But I will tell the honourable member that we hope to expand upon what we presently have. I believe it works well. And again, that's not based on any science, just based on the fact I drive that particular highway a lot and actually have seen vehicles move over onto those and quickly move back into the lane. So, and I'm sure there have been accidents in this province and other places that have been caused as a result of fatigue or just driver distraction or whatever. And I'm sure that those rumble strips played an important role in regards to ensuring that our highways remain safe. So, I guess the shorter answer is that yes, we intend on doing more. Whether it'll be more this year or not depends on our budget. But again, if we do more, it'll be more along the 104 towards Truro.
Honourable member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly welcome the minister's answer to that question. There's no doubt, and I agree. I've seen what the minister has witnessed when you're driving along not necessarily 104, but some other highways where there are rumble strips, and the vehicle in front of you somehow goes to the right, and once they hit those rumble strips, they move back to the center of their lane. So I certainly hope that the department considers calling more tenders. Mr. Chair, I would like to move to another area now. Last September, the department had to spend at least $2 million to repair flood-damaged roads throughout 7 counties in Nova Scotia. I know the department has no control over the weather, and especially on heavy rains, but unfortunately some parts of these roads were completely washed out. But when situations happen, unfortunately, the department staff has to go in and repair these washouts. So my first question, does the department, I guess I'm looking in terms of, do they provide additional funding to help out in time of need to those areas? In this case, there were 7 counties back in September of last year. Does the department have a special budget for assisting areas when flooding, when crisis comes about? So maybe the minister could answer that first question.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member for the question. He's absolutely right. There were additional costs that the department faced last year as a result of those flooding issues that the honourable member mentioned. I can tell the honourable member that there is a certain amount of money that would be kept within the department for situations like that we will be able to access in the event situations occur that are out of our control and they're not expected and can't be budgeted for, actually. And you know, one year you may need it, one year you may not. And if you don't need it next year for flooding, we'll probably need it for something different. So the department does keep some, and there's availability, some discretionary money within the department that can be used for that type of I guess occurrence taking place. I will say as well that the honourable member would be well aware of this, that if in the event we have that type of damage province-wide and it meets the federal program for disaster fund, where the province, I believe, has to pay the first $1 million, and then we would be able to access monies nationally and federally, then certainly we would apply for those funds as well. And that's happened in the past, and in fact has happened quite recently over the last few years. So there are two things there. Money's available within the department, yes, and obviously we would look to the federal government to assist in fact if it's over $1 million damage province-wide.
The Honourable Member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious. The minister made reference to this so-called discretionary fund that's within the department. I guess the obvious question is how much is in this discretionary fund, and where would we find it in the department's budget?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the honourable member, thank you for the question. On page 23.9, under maintenance improvements, under roads, we would keep half a million to $1 million of non-TCA money available for events such as the honourable member brought forward, because I'm sure throughout the year there'll be, whether it's flooding or some other occurrence. Some of the occurrence that we never planned for, didn't budget for, could be a bridge somewhere that collapsed. I'm thinking of the issue brought forward the last couple of weeks in Pictou County, where there was a collapse of a culvert, Morrison Creek culvert. We're estimating, I think, somewhere around $500,000 to $750,000, but $500,000, that we never planned for, we didn't budget for. But however, when something like that happens, we have to have the ability to repair that. Citizens are cut off from their community. There's a lot of 17 or 18 kilometers of detour, and we have to have the ability within our existing budget to actually address a problem like that and do it right away. So under that maintenance improvement section of the budget under roads, there would be $1.5 million to $1 million that would be kind of kept in abeyance in regards to the possibility of an event like that happening, and the department having the ability to address it.
Honourable Member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to move on to, there's 2 ferries in western Nova Scotia, and I've been asked, I just want to, bring these questions to the attention of the minister. Mr. Chair, Bay Ferries operates 2 ferries in western Nova Scotia. First of all, we have the CAT that runs out of Yarmouth to Bar Harbour, Maine, and Portland, Maine, and we have the Princess of Acadia that runs out of Digby to St. John, New Brunswick. With the CAT, first of all, some people from the tourism industry, especially from the Clare area, have asked questions with regards to the ferry sailing schedule. Knowing that the provincial government did provide a $2.5 million grant to Bay Ferries to help with that operation. Naturally, and that was done, Mr. Chair, last fall, fall of 2007. So the question that I've been asked, maybe the minister knows, the question is, why hasn't the province tried to get a better deal with the ferry sailing schedule, allowing the CAT to stay some nights spending some overnights, I guess, in Yarmouth, and some nights in Maine, to help our tourism operators, not just in Clare, but in all of Western Nova Scotia. You know, from Annapolis County, Digby County, Yarmouth County, right down to Shelburne County. So instead of having the CAT docking overnight in Maine every night. So I've been asked that question. I don't know if the minister has some information on the ferry sailing schedule. Mr. Chair, I would like to know if the minister could provide some information that I could pass on to tourism operators in Western Nova Scotia.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the member opposite for what I would say is a very, very important issue in regards to Southwest Nova Scotia. I'll begin by saying that it's an issue that's been brought to my attention, and I know our government's attention. Both the Minister of Tourism and Culture has been involved in the Yarmouth area. I know the Minister of Energy, who represents that area, has been heavily involved in this issue. I know there's been a lot of discussion with Bay Ferry around not only the issue the honourable member is talking about, but in fact the future of the ferry between Digby and St. John. As the honourable member would know, the province has committed $2 million along with New Brunswick and federal government in regards to commitment there to try to ensure the future of that ferry. I know that the Minister of Tourism and Culture, the Minister of Energy, and the Minister of Economic Development, who actually that file would fall under economic development in regards to Bay Ferry and the issue you're bringing forward. But I know there have been discussions with Bay Ferry, but not only that issue, but the whole issue around the future of Southwest Nova Scotia and the ability to attract tourists, the ability to assist the tourism industry down that way, the ability to not only encourage but support the present business that are in that area of the province that are very dependent upon ferry service in Nova Scotia. So I can't say specifically. I've talked to someone myself personally about the schedule. Again, the file would fall under economic development. I know that the government, through various departments, including ours and the other ones I just mentioned, have had discussions with the owners of Bay Ferries about the future and about our whole strategy around Southwest Nova Scotia in the future. So that part of it is very important. But to the bigger picture, a lot of discussions and a lot of emphasis being put on that issue, and the government trying to do what we can to ensure that the ferry service continues in the future for the people of Southwest Nova Scotia. In fact, for all the maritime provinces, because I believe that the ferry service is a vital transportation link, again, for Southwest Nova Scotia, for the Yarmouth and Digby area, but as well for the business people of this province. And we hear it often, and I think we have to do collectively as a government everything we can do to ensure the future of that service.
The Honourable Member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, the amount of time that that's been allotted to debate the estimates in supply tomorrow will come to an end. My understanding is the Department of Economic Development is the last one on the list for this chamber. So I would love to be able to save this question for the Minister of Economic Development. So maybe I could ask the Minister of Transportation, if at all possible, if he could look into, when the province did provide $2.5 million to Bay Ferries and the ferry operation that runs between Yarmouth and Maine, I suspect there were some discussions on the ferry sailing schedule, so I'm just curious if the minister would undertake to maybe look into that and maybe get back to us at a future day. I just want to touch quickly on the other ferry in Western Nova Scotia, and Mr. Chair, that's the Princess of Acadia. I know my colleague from Digby Annapolis has raised questions in this House. You know, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the ferry service provided by Bay Ferries between Digby and St. John after January 2009? I'm just curious, does the minister know what's going to happen after January 2009 to the ferry service between Digby and St. John, New Brunswick? Has the minister or his staff been talking with the federal government in order to continue to have a ferry service between Digby and St. John? So I'm just curious if the minister could provide us with a little bit of information on that service.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. Yeah, I'm sorry as well that we can't have an opportunity to question the Minister of Economic Development. I think it'd be wonderful, and I would certainly support you on that. However, being that's not the case, I'll attempt to answer if I can. Actually, the Minister of Economic Development and I had met several months back with some elected officials from down the Digby area, and we heard firsthand the concerns they have. As was stated earlier, the provincial government of Nova Scotia, we've committed in excess of $2 million to the extending the service in Digby, as well as the provincial government of New Brunswick has, and the federal government. I think the federal government committed $4 million. I can tell you there have been discussions with the federal government in regards to our desire to see the federal government ensure that service will continue. You know, we're very hopeful that we will receive a favorable response from the federal government. We don't have a commitment at this point, but we're hopeful that there will be a favorable response in the future. I think the federal government realizes, as we do as a province, how important that service is to that area, as I indicated earlier, and as I know the honourable member has indicated as well, that there's an agreement that that's very important to the future of that part of our province and the province of Nova Scotia. And again, we're waiting for a response from the federal government, which we hope will be not too in a distant future, but we look forward to their response to our request.
The Honourable Member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the Minister for his information. I want to move on to another topic. It's about painting lines on our roads, on our paved roads. Mr. Minister, I'm just curious if the department has a policy on painting lines on the center of our paved roads. You know, does the department, it's the department policy, is it to have our lines painted every year? Do we have a policy that we only paint certain lines on certain roads every 2 years? I know in my area that has certainly raised a number of questions, so I'm just looking for some clarification on what the department policy is on painting center lines on our highways.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. First of all, to answer the question about centerline painting, that painting is done each and every year throughout the province. That would be the yellow center lines. I want to mention as well that 2 years ago, the province the government made a decision to paint the what do you call it? Edge lines? The edge white lines in the province on all numbered highways. So that's a huge undertaking, a huge initiative, but I believe something that goes a long way to helping make our roads as safe as possible. It's a $1 million annual amount for that, but again, besides the center lines, there's also the white line side lines that are painted. As a result of that, we purchased an additional piece of equipment, which makes 3 for the province for doing center line painting. And as the member would know as well, besides having our own staff and own equipment, We also tender out a good portion of centerline painting within the province, which about a quarter of that, and 3/4 is done internally, and a quarter of that would be done through the private sector. But again, the centerline painting is done annually. So are the white lines on the edges, and that's only a new initiative under this government 2 years ago, and it's something I believe is well received and will continue in the future.
The honourable member for Clare.
Okay, I'm just looking for clarification. The minister indicated new policy came in place 2 years ago. Are we looking at painting all the center lines on all paved roads every year? Is that what I understood? Okay, thank you. I want to, speaking of painting lines on our roads, I have to bring this up to the minister's attention. The markers sometimes that are used, the stickers that are sometimes used on our paved roads. Last fall in Clare, some patchwork was carried out on some of our paved roads. In certain areas, there were large patches done. In some areas, there were only long patches done on only one side of the road. So I understand usually once these patches are done, the department staff usually comes behind and put markers or put these stickers to show motorists where the center of the road is. Well, in February, Mr. Chairman, this past February on Highway 1 in Clare, there was a vehicle accident where this lady driver was in one of the vehicles involved, and she told me that I should, if I had an opportunity, I should, raise this with the minister, and I told her that I would. So I just want to share some of these details that were shared with me, because I want the minister to bring it back to his department. She indicated to me it was in the evening. It was quite foggy that night. There was a long patch that was only done on one side of the road. Unfortunately, there were only a few stickers on the middle of the road where that patch was actually that patchwork was done. Unfortunately, because of the fog, because it was dark, she, for whatever reason, the car came too close to the center of the highway, or unfortunately, the car may have gone on the other side of the middle of the road. Unfortunately, this lady ran into the vehicle that was coming from the other direction. Luckily, nobody was seriously injured, so thank God for that. But she did indicate to me if there had been more markers, on the road, it certainly would have helped maybe prevent this accident. So she asked me to, as I've said, to bring this matter to the minister's attention. So maybe if the department staff could look into this, or relay the message back to your staff that there are your staff that's out in the field when patchwork is carried out on paved roads, to make sure there are markers to inform motorists, where the middle of the road is. Again, this lady, she's not saying it was because there were not too many markers on the center of that road that caused the accident, but she did indicate it certainly could have, been one of the reasons. So I want to bring this to the minister's attention. Maybe they can relay the message from this unfortunate driver that was involved in a car accident. So I guess I'll just ask the minister to maybe respond to that, please.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the concern brought forward. I will say that in a normal paving project on provincial highway, if the contractor would be required to put down temporary reflective stickers, as the honourable member talked about, usually on the day of the repaving, and then we would expect everything being available, that the permanent center line painting would be done within 3 days. If the stickers are going down and it's going to be within 3 days that's going to get the permanent painting, then they will probably be placed about 60 meters apart. If it's going to be longer than the 3 days, it could be 10 to 20 meters apart. But we would expect that that those permanent lines will get down within a matter of days. I believe the honourable member is bringing the issue forward around rim spreader patching. Is that okay? So the rim spreader patching, again, part of that contract would be that their crew would be part of their contract would be that their crew would put down those temporary stickers. And certainly we can bring that to the attention of the contractors as we put those contracts out. But again, there's specifications they have to meet. We expect them to meet those with the contracts, and if they're not being met, then we would want to know about that. But again, we would have staff in our department that would be ensuring that they are meeting those specs of that contract. But again, if there's a specific situation issue the honourable member wants brought forward, we'll certainly bring it forward to staff to ensure that those conditions are met. Thank you.
The honourable member for Clare with about 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see that my time is winding down on this round, but I want to begin with crosswalk safety. If I didn't bring this up, the minister would certainly, wonder, what happened on this side of the House. Mr. Chair, this past April, the government announced funding totaling $300,000 over 3 years. $300,000 over 3 years to help increase safety at crosswalks. When I look at $100,000 a year for the entire province, it's not much to address a serious issue in our province. Mr. Chair, we all realize that using crosswalks is a shared responsibility between pedestrians and drivers. But unfortunately, in this situation, the pedestrian, has the most to lose. I guess with that, I'm going to take my seat and I'll return at the next round. Thank you.
Thank you. And the minister has requested a 2-minute recess and will so grant it. We'll recess for 2 minutes. clerk, please. We now will continue with the estimates and recognize the honourable member for Queens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to take us back to the 103 for a little bit. I talked about residents' concerns about bypass in the Port Jolly area. And you had mentioned yesterday in some of your responses that a number of projects or some projects are being looked at for the 103, and other members have come to you with requests for projects along the 103. And other than the work that's currently being done on the 103, and I think it's exits 6 and 7, could you tell me what other projects are being looked at for the 103, and whether or not a bypass is also being considered for that Port Jolly area? Because I don't think that was really clear yesterday when we were talking around that.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member opposite for the question. Certainly, I can tell the honourable member that the area between Sable River and Broad River is one I know that I've had discussions with the honourable member, Member of Parliament Gerald Keddy, as I mentioned the other day, that the members from down along the South Shore, as well as yourself, honourable member, have talked about different areas. But I know that specific area is has a lot of interest with a lot of folks, and I know the people down that area. I did travel down that area with the Minister of Energy. I guess probably about a month and a half ago to see firsthand. He wanted me to see firsthand what folks in that area, in your area, face on a regular basis, and those folks that are traveling from here to Yarmouth along the 103. So I can tell you that Mr. Keddy certainly in his discussions with me has indicated that he has a great interest in that section of highway. I think it's 20 some kilometers of section that will be in that area. So I know that there's an interest within the department on that. I know there's an interest with the honourable member herself, and I know other members, and again Mr. Keddy. So that's certainly one area that we're giving consideration to. But again, we haven't reached any final decision or determination of where we'll go next. But I know that's one of the areas that we're considering.
The honourable member for Queens.
Thank you for that. I just want to go back to some of the residents' concerns in my area that I get frequently, and I know we've chatted about them before, but I just want to go over them again quickly. I get concerns frequently around ditching, bush cutting, brush cutting, shouldering, patching, spreader patches, sealing gravel roads or chloride, rather, keeping dust levels down. And when I'm looking at the copy of the rim impact mitigation, this is a budget page, I'm assuming. Can you just help me go through this so that I'm understanding what I'm looking at? While I see for the area district, the Western District, which includes Lunenburg, Queens, Yarmouth, Middleton, Kings, and the Western Director, while I see the total has increased slightly from 07-08, I noticed that the contingency monies have decreased substantially. Could you just clarify for me what contingency monies would be used for? And why I'm seeing such a drastic decrease from 07-08 to 08-09?
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the honourable member for the question. I'm assuming you're reading from the document I sent over to you? Yes, okay. That contingency money would be money that would be set aside. And as an example, if we got a real good price this year, for example, on pavement or on gravel, then we would use that additional money, put that additional money in that type of a maybe a project that could use the extra money. But we would you know, again, if we get a real good price on something that we were anticipating maybe a higher price, we would use that extra money for projects like that.
The honourable member for Queens.
Okay, thank you for that. And I certainly have the utmost trust in our area supervisors that they certainly know, you know, where that money's or where the priorities are. And I've had a number of discussions, but I just want a clarification on that. You know, we really don't have a lot of time to talk to ministers and department staff about all of our questions, so I'm going to jump now very quickly over to a few other aspects of the department, and I'm going to move to Gateway and the Gateway Initiative. Gateway. And I mean, I think we've all been watching very closely with all of the, and not necessarily announcements, because no official announcements have been made around Gateway projects, but we're all very interested in seeing how Gateway projects move forward in the province. And I think there was a lot of, and still is a lot of encouragement with the announcement from the federal government of $2.1 billion being invested in Gateway projects across the country. And while that's a really good thing, and we do know that there has been a lot of advocacy, not only from the province of Nova Scotia, but our Atlantic partners, to vie for some of that money or compete for some of that money in the coming year and years ahead. I understand that there has been a study complete by the Vancouver firm Intervistas, who have indicated to the federal government that certainly some investment could be made here in the eastern end of our great country. That being said, what I'd like to know is who is the lead department, or which department is taking the lead on Gateway? The second question would be the budget line in the Department of Transportation's budget around Gateway Initiative. What is behind Gateway Initiatives? What does all that encompass? And then the third question I would have, or I'll wait till I get those answers and then I'll go into my next question. So two quick questions around that, please.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the honourable member opposite for the question. I'll begin by saying that we're answering questions here tonight. We have a wide variety of questions from Service Nova Scotia, tourism, culture. We've had them for economic development, but I will say that, and I appreciate it. And I will say to begin with that. Gateway actually does come under the Minister responsible for economic development. The deputy in my department of transportation would be the deputy for that, and Mr. Ochsner would be involved in that as well. On page 23.3, under program and services, program expenses, down below you'll see Nova Scotia Gateway Initiative, 1.1 million. So that's an item that's in transportation budget, and that's for things like. So things like staff, consulting fees, marketing, and whatnot, that would be involved in those monies that are allocated. I do want to say that the federal government certainly, I believe, recognizes the importance of Gateway. There's tremendous opportunity for the province of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada when it comes to the Gateway. When we see the amount of traffic coming from Asia now, that it's coming through, you know, with the opportunities, the possibilities of our shores, we just recently signed a memorandum of agreement, I guess, or understanding with the other Atlantic provinces in regards to Atlantic Canada strategy for transportation. I think we all recognize and understand that we have to collectively support each other for all kinds of reasons, but one of the main reasons, one of the good reasons would be in regards to Atlantic Gateway. I think the federal government recognizes that. The federal government is presently, I believe, considering what opportunities there are here in Atlantic Canada. I know Minister McKay is very supportive of Nova Scotia. I know the Minister responsible for economic development, who is responsible again for this file, has been very proactive in regards to Atlantic Gateway. visiting other countries, encouraging and looking at supporting opportunities here in Nova Scotia. But again, I just indicated where you would see the line item for Atlantic Gateway and what those dollars would be allocated for. Thank you.
The honourable member for Queens.
Thank you. Further to that, we know that the Premier has announced upwards to $300 million for potential gateway projects some time back, although it wasn't clear where that $300 million would come from or when it would be when that money would actually be needed to invest in projects. So my question would be, with that type of announcement, would some of those monies come from the Department of Transportation's budget? And in the coming, I'm thinking perhaps in the coming year or two, that there would be speculation that type of money would need to be part of the province's buy-in to Gateway. If some of that monies come from the Department of Transportation's budget, what type of an impact would that have on our existing infrastructure needs along our 100 series highways, our secondary roads, et cetera, et cetera?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the member as well for the question. Just say that, you know, discussions are presently underway in regards to specific projects that may qualify. And this particular one, if you're looking at the programs, would be under the Gateway and Border Crossing Program, where there would be an opportunity for Nova Scotia to cost share with the federal government in regards to our core national highway system, airport upgrades. There's several initiatives in the gateway marketing and so on that would actually qualify under that federal money. The money that the provincial government and the Premier talked about would actually be, I think, a big part of that would be for our national highway system, particularly the highway between New Glasgow to the Causeway. Yeah, to New Glasgow to the Causeway, which I think would you know, we've talked about it a lot, but I really believe that upgrading and twinning that highway and other highways in this province will provide tremendous opportunity. But also, as the Gateway Initiative evolves and we will see more traffic coming into our ports, we will see more traffic on our highways, and we need to prepare ourselves for that. You know, our present infrastructure today on our national highway system certainly has the ability to carry safely, I believe, the traffic we see, but I believe we will see over the coming years as a result of the Gateway Initiatives and the opportunities from Asia that the Honourable Member, Minister of Economic Development, could certainly speak a lot more eloquently than I can about it, but I think that there are tremendous opportunities, and we have to prepare for that. And I think that twinning and upgrading our national highway system is vital to ensuring that does happen. And again, you know, all the Atlantic provinces agree that the gateway is important, our infrastructure is important, our highway system is important, and we need to work collectively together to ensure that we have a highway system that is modern and that can carry additional traffic that I believe we'll see from the Gateway project.
The Honourable Member for Queens.
So the twinning, the part of the Gateway, building up the highway system and the twinning from, sorry, you said what point to Canso? New Glasgow, sorry, yes. Is that reflected, is any monies reflected in this budget, this current budget, at this point in time?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member opposite for the question. The member opposite will recall back, I think it was November, we actually signed the umbrella agreement with the federal government. The Premier was there, the Minister of Economic Development, Minister McKay, and Minister Cannon were there in New Glasgow, and Antigonish, sorry, and we signed the overall umbrella agreement in regards to the $634 million infrastructure program that will be available in this province for all the various things we talked about. But we haven't signed the specific project agreement yet, and some of those are in the works now, and some will come as we're waiting for the federal. For example, the P3 money is available federally. We haven't signed any agreements with the federal government because we're waiting for the federal government to actually tell us the guidelines, the parameters around which these monies can be accessed for example, for Nova Scotia. So those specific projects the honourable member asked about, no, we have not signed the agreements with Ottawa yet. We expect to sign them soon, and when we do, then we'll move forward on those projects.
Honourable member for Queens.
You said the 634, were you not referring to the Building Canada Fund, which is not gateway monies, or is it?
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, what we've signed in the umbrella agreement is the Building Canada Fund, the base funding program, and the gas tax fund, which will be the return to the municipalities. Gateways, Border and Crossing Program, and the P3 Projects Fund haven't been signed yet. So we're still waiting, again, for the detail to be worked out with the federal government, and so that we can enter an agreement with them, an official agreement with them, so that we can proceed on those projects.
Honourable member for Queens.
So then, if I'm to understand correctly, the Building Canada Fund is really not a fund specific to gateway projects. It's for a multitude of other needs along our 100 series highways, and for municipalities to kind of invest strategically for their infrastructure needs as well. Correct? Or
The
not?
Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. The three programs that I listed already, and I can go into detail and explain some of the programs that would qualify for those if the honourable member wishes, but they're more they're more formula specific. In other words, Nova Scotia, based on our population and size, would be able to access X number of dollars based on that criteria. The gateways and the P3 projects are based on programs, individual programs or projects. So once we have a program developed, they tell us what the criteria is, then we'll be able to apply for specific projects. So I'll make that quite clear. But if the honourable member wants, I can tell you about some of the projects that would qualify under the Building Canada versus the base funding program. No? I tried. Okay. Thank you.
The Honourable member for Queens.
But thank you anyway for the offer. I just want to make a comment about the gateway. I mean, we know how important it is to build up our infrastructure and certainly prepare for the future in terms of any potential economic growth with manufacturing, importing, and exporting. I'm just hoping that we're not too far behind the 8 ball, because we know the competitions across the country are going to be huge. And there are other potential gateway projects happening in our neighboring U.S. You know, there are gateway projects happening elsewhere, so I hope we are not too far behind that 8 ball. And I certainly do hope that you know, good planning and good vision about what the gateway means, and that we're not signed, sealed, and delivered on the wish list of the government at this point in time, because I'm sure there are other opportunities around other parts of the province that could also look at the potential for gateway funding. And I'm thinking of Yarmouth, and I'm thinking of even Queens, for example. You know, we have a deep harbour that Bowater has in the past operated out of, and still does, but not to the capacity that it used to be. So I hope that the vision is not narrow, and that the plans are solid when they do develop. I want to talk about BC partnerships quickly, and I have one quick question around BC partnerships. We had asked many questions in the House some time ago when the minister had decided to commit and sign a contract with BC partnerships. did we not have the expertise here in the province with existing good folks and companies that would have been able to do a similar and comparable job that BC Partnerships is offering to the province? You know, when jobs get, whatever the job may be, whether it's a contract with a consulting firm, whether it's a contract with a manufacturing firm, you know, and it's discouraging when we look outside of the province for expertise. And it makes one wonder whether or not we have utilized the talent that we have here in the province. And if the expertise isn't here, you know, what does that tell us? That we need to be finding the expertise within, and how do we do that? So that's the question.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the member opposite for bringing forward what I believe is one of the most important issues, I think, as Minister in Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal that I'll have an opportunity to deal with in the coming months and years. Certainly, all those other things that we deal with in transportation are very important, from roads to bridges to all the things that, you know, that we, in the operation of all those things we talked about the last couple of days are very important. But I do want to take a few minutes to talk about strategic infrastructure partnership and what that means, I believe, for Nova Scotia. The honourable member mentioned whether or not we have the expertise in Nova Scotia. You know, I would not say that we don't have people available in this province that could help with these initiatives, but I will say this, that we made a decision that, you know, it was the Premier's decision, the government's decision to change the name of Transportation and Public Works to Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal. You've heard me say a lot over the last 6 months. I know we've heard my colleague, the Minister of Economic Development, say continually over the time he spent in transportation that we have an $8 billion deficit in infrastructure in this province. We need to address that in a very aggressive way. We need to look at other ways of traditional ways than we normally have done of addressing that very, very, very important deficit. We have a financial deficit. We have an infrastructure deficit, and I would suggest that the infrastructure deficit is every bit as important as the financial one that we face in Nova Scotia. I'll use the words of the Deputy Minister, who says that, you know, told me, and I know he said, I've said publicly, and I repeated him, that it would be irresponsible for us, myself as Minister in this government, not to look at every opportunity and make available to us every opportunity to address that deficit, and look at other jurisdictions across the country, in fact, across North America, who have tackled and are tackling the very same challenges we're facing in regards to an infrastructure deficit. Mr. Chair, you would ask the question why we picked Partnerships BC, and I'll answer it in one word: success. Partnerships BC have proven that they can be successful when it comes to strategic infrastructure partnerships, and they're partnering with other provinces. For example, I believe Quebec and Ontario. I believe one of the Western provinces is considering it now. I know that the federal government's partnering with Partnerships BC. And in fact, I even believe there's 2 or 3 states south of the border that are partnering with Partnerships BC and using their expertise and building on their success when it comes to building and facing infrastructure deficits. A while back, within the last couple of months, about 2 months ago, I guess, myself and Greg Lusk, who's in charge of Public Works, Director of Public Works, and Executive Director of Public Works, and as well the Deputy, we went to BC. We met with some of the stakeholders. We met with some government folks. We met with Partnerships BC. I just wish, you know, I guess my thought about all that would be that every member of this legislature would have an opportunity to see and to observe what we had an opportunity to see when we were out there. One highway, it's called the Sea to Sky Highway, which they're doing a tremendous job on. It goes right up to Whistler. We had an opportunity to view that highway. They were twinning it. They're modernizing it. They're putting in passing lanes. They're making a highway that's making that into a modern highway that will carry a tremendous amount of traffic safely up that whole stretch of the part of BC. And again, there was a hospital we looked at was in Abbotsford. Abbotsford, BC is a community that a new hospital is being built there. I believe it will service an area of about 300,000 people. It's a $350 million facility. It includes in that facility everything that you can imagine a provincial facility would include, in fact, Cancer BC, I believe. Cancer BC has set up their operation in that hospital. Every conceivable service that you can imagine in a regional hospital or provincial hospital is in that new Abbotsford hospital. And I will say that it's being completed on time and on budget, and that is so important. When we're looking at our infrastructure deficit and looking at how we can replace aging infrastructure here in Nova Scotia, we have to be so aware and so sure that we spend taxpayers' dollars effectively and ensuring that we get good value for the dollar. This Abbotsford Hospital, what struck me the most was that part of the agreement was, apparently when the agreement was first signed, there were a lot of naysayers who said that the Abbotsford Hospital was way too expensive. And we've seen projects in this province completed over the last few years that have, at the end of the day, cost a lot more than what was estimated or projected at the outset. And I guess when Abbotsford Hospital was first announced, when it was announced, everybody was happy with it, other than there was a lot of people who had said that they felt that it was too rich and it was too much money for the project. Well, that project, I believe, is being completed this month, and I believe the opening date is sometime between now and August. And nothing but rave reviews across the province about what a great project this is, and what a great deal it turned out to be, because the actual cost. What's the word I'm looking for? It's okay. Yeah. The responsibility of the cost of the facility, and there's a word I'm looking for, I can't quite catch it, but anyway, is transferred. The risk. There we go. The risk of that facility, is transferred from the province, from the people, onto the private developer. And yeah, you're right. I am. Anyway, but that impressed me, that this facility is being done, completed on time and on budget. That the risk was assumed by the private developer, and I know that at the end of the day, the people there are very happy, and the province is happy with this project. But one thing I want to say that the Minister of Health, I know, would appreciate this. The Abbotsford Hospital, part of the arrangement in the contract was that the developer had to ensure that the most up-to-date, the most current technology available anywhere would be incorporated in that Abbotsford Hospital. And General Electric, I believe, was the company that took them up on that. And in fact, they're installing equipment, have installed equipment in that Abbotsford Hospital that's one of a kind in Canada. And they're going to have the most up-to-date hospital when it comes to cancer treatment, when it comes to any kind of service you can imagine in a provincial hospital. They have it there, and I tell you, the technology is second to none anywhere in Canada. In fact, it'll probably compete anywhere in North America. So I guess back to the original question of the honourable member was that about strategic infrastructure project partnerships. I believe, again, that it would be irresponsible for us not to examine these. We put 10 projects forward to Partnerships BC, $20,000 per project for a total of $200,000. They were putting those projects through their screening process. I've listed off earlier in my opening statements those 10 projects, and we deliberately put forward a variety of projects. So they weren't all one type of project. They weren't all hospitals. They weren't all roads. There's a variety of projects. Two of them are correctional facilities, which I know the honourable member for Richmond has asked a lot of questions about over the last couple of weeks in regards to correctional facilities. Those are very important to this program. Two of those are being put forward as possible projects through strategic infrastructure partnership. The other thing that we've committed to, and I've committed to, is that we will ensure that the public of this province, the people of Nova Scotia, know every step of the way what we're doing in regards to the expenditures of these monies and the examination of these projects. We announced the MOU when we first signed it with Partnerships BC. We then come back and indicated the projects that we were putting forward for consideration to go through their screening process. We indicated which projects they were. We've indicated the cost to the province, what it will be to put them through their process. We expect that Partnerships BC will respond back to us with a report on those 10 projects by the end of June. We will make that response and that report, and their suggestions are what they've, examined and what they're saying to us. We'll make that fully available to the public, fully available to members of this legislature, and then we'll determine from there whether we'll go ahead with any, all, or none of these projects. And I think it's being responsible. I think it's a good investment of taxpayers' dollars. And I will say, the honourable member asked a question about expertise here in Nova Scotia. What we're hoping to do here is that these projects, if again, will go to the next step. I'm very, very hopeful that some of these projects will go to the next step, but again, that determination be made by government once we get the report back. But looking beyond that, communities across BC are all clamoring now, lining up, trying to get projects for their own communities because it's been so successful. Again, other provinces have partnered with Partnerships BC. The federal government has, and states to the south of the border. So obviously, their success is well known. It's known widely. We want to be part of that success. But what we want to do as well, we may not have the expertise presently in Nova Scotia, but we're hoping that as we go through this process with Partnerships BC, and we're working very closely with them, we're not letting them do all the work, we're working very closely with Partnerships BC, we're hoping that we can develop that expertise here in Nova Scotia, so that possibly when we go to projects beyond the 10 that we put forward, that we will be in a position then as a province to have expertise within their own government, within their own department, to be able to actually do what Partnerships BC is doing for us. And I think, I know that, that some are comparing these to some other experiences we have in this province, and I always like to look ahead, not back. If we want to move ahead, we have to look ahead, and I think that we can learn from our experience. I think we can certainly take advantage of success outside of this province in Partnerships BC, and I think there's tremendous opportunity for us here in Nova Scotia. And as Minister, I'm proud to say that we've taken advantage of this opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to the report from Partnerships BC by the end of June, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to see some of these projects move forward in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Queens.
Thank you. And just respectfully, that was a very long answer to what I thought was going to be a short, brief question. I am, very quickly. So I'm wondering whether I should go back and just talk about all of my local roads and take up the rest of my time. But no, in all seriousness, I do have, and in the interest of time, because I have two colleagues that would like to get up and speak very, very quickly. But I haven't had opportunity to talk a lot about the public works side of the department. And I have noticed that on one of the budget lines, if I can find my... the budget line on page 23.9, and I've noticed that in 07-08, $609,000 was estimated, yet only $487,000 was forecasted to have been spent. And there is a tremendous increase for 08 and 09, and I don't have my page right in front of me. I lost my... Did you take that? So can you tell me why that increase?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Transportation.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if the honourable member knew what the answer was she would have asked, because that money is for strategic infrastructure partnerships. So I could expand a little bit more on about the money, but I'll just leave it at that to say that money is the money that we've allocated for the money we talked about already for strategic infrastructure partnerships.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Queens.
Thank you for the quick answer. And at a later date, we'll talk about the specifics. The department has, or in some of the department's literature, I understand that there are about 1,430 some odd buildings and or properties being maintained by the department. Do you have a sense, or does the department have a sense? I mean, we all have heard, you know, over the past year, some of the buildings that are in disrepair. I mean, the VG Hospital is looking for, you know, is needing serious renovations and upgrades and restructuring, and of course the Abbey, and of course many schools across the province. And the Joe Howe building, I mean, we've asked questions in-house about that as well. But that is only a small number of buildings that, since my time sitting as a member, that I'm aware of in terms of needs around maintenance and renovations or rebuilding. And of course, we have a lot of new buildings that are needed. Courthouses, you know, mentioned, and we've talked a lot about as well. Is there a comprehensive list of those buildings and what state of repair is needed, or what state of disrepair? What buildings may be slated at some point for demolition or renovations, other than the ones that have been discussed in the House over the past year or so?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member opposite for the question. As I was just reminded, that could run anywhere from the, what was the name place? That could run everywhere from the woodshed at Ross Farm to Government House. So I mean, and everything in between. And the honourable member, I know, would appreciate that. That's a wide varying degree of the amount of work and maintenance required on buildings, and obviously some in the short term, some in the long term. But my understanding is that actually there's a pilot project underway right now within our department that is actually doing an assessment of, and it would be related to the insurance. I guess suffice to say that there's a pilot project underway right now where we would use the information that we have provided for insurance purposes, and that information then would be translated into a recap for ourselves to kind of get an idea of and do an inventory as to where our facilities are, and kind of what stage they're at, and what kind of needs there are.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Queens.
Thank you. And before I pass on my time to a couple of my colleagues, the industrial malls, I believe there are 17. I believe there are 17 industrial malls, 13, 17. Are all of those industrial malls serviced, or rather working at their full capacity? For example, I know there's a small industrial mall in my riding, and I don't think all of the units are, or the last time I was through that particular industrial mall, and I'm not sure if it's provincially funded and maintained or if it's municipally, but I know it isn't rented at full capacity. So how many of our malls out there maintained by the province are run at full capacity? Every unit rented out with a business or some other enterprise happening in the units. And can you tell me what malls may not be working at full capacity?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the honourable member for the question. I believe there are 13 industrial. So there are 13 parks and 3 malls. There are 13 parks and 3 industrial malls. They would actually be owned by Nova Scotia Business Inc. So they're owned by Nova Scotia Business Inc. And maintained by Department of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal. So I guess the actual information as to which ones are operating at part or full capacity, I wouldn't have that information, but certainly we can get that information for the honourable member if she wishes it. But again, there are actually 13 parks and 3 malls. So, but again, that's not information I would have at my fingertips. We can get that for you if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Queens.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I am going to pass my time, what is remaining, on to my colleagues. And the first colleague to speak, and she will share her time, but is the member for Dartmouth South, Portland Valley.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Dartmouth South, Portland Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one issue, and that's exit 8 on Highway 111, which is the Mount Hope interchange. And I sent correspondence to your office in March, and I want to check on the status of the connection of that interchange to the Woodside Industrial Park, because there are a number of businesses that are suffering as a result of the disconnect. If you go up the ramp on what I'll call the west side of the interchange, you can't go anywhere except over to Baker Drive or down the other side to reconnect with Highway 111. And I understand there's been discussions going on with HRM about connecting it, but in the meantime, the businesses in the Woodside Industrial Park are suffering because the signage directs people up to the Mount Hope Avenue. Everyone assumes it's going to the old Mount Hope Avenue. Instead, people are being redirected over to Baker Drive. And I just want to say that in the Woodside Industrial Park, we have businesses like the Advantage Food Equipment, Ocean Nutrition, Survival Systems Training, Orion Cold Storage, all the emergency management offices and call centers, the HRM East Division Police Office. I mean, there are a lot of important activities happening in the park, and they require a more direct access to Highway 111. So I'd like to ask the Minister if he can give me an update on how quickly that connection is going to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the honourable member for the question and the issue brought forward, certainly on behalf of our own constituency. I will say that this particular project that the member is bringing forward is I don't believe the land in the area is an issue. The design, my understanding is the design for that project is just about complete. The province, we've agreed to forward this to the federal government to be part of the federal cost-sharing program, and it'll be a three-way partnership. Novacor, HRM, and the federal government will each cost-share on that project, a third, and a third. And the design and the contract administration will be borne by HRM. So that's about where the status of that project is today.
Thank you. The Honourable the Member for Dartmouth South, Portland Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you give me some time frame for the work, please?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister.
The project has been submitted, as I say, for cost funding with the federal government, and actually the timelines when that project will be completed would be determined by Novacor and by HRM.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Dartmouth South, Portland Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll share my time with the member from Hants East.
Thank you. The Chair now recognizes the Honourable Member for Hants East.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank my colleagues for a few minutes to ask some questions. A few minutes out of a few hours. I guess we could probably all question the minister for some time. I guess my first question to the minister would be the appropriate one. What can you tell me Hants East is going to get in terms of pavement and bridges? I want to thank the minister and his department for the help on the Weir Bridge last year and on the South Rawdon Road. If if I had a bridge that needed to be replaced, it was that one for sure. So I know I got correspondence from the minister some time ago about the concrete bridge that's on the 14 highway over the Herbert River that was supposed to be replaced this year, I think. So I just want to make sure that that's going to happen. I want to say thanks for the 14 highway. It's being paved now, so I appreciate that very much. I know my constituents there do, believe me. It's a bad road, so they're appreciative of that. I guess if you can let me know if there's anything else going to happen in the foreseeable future.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Transportation,